How are you doing? I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to be able to speak to you today. I have had the pleasure of watching the first episode of Out There. Tantalizing, just the one. So I'm obviously desperate to know what happens next. But for people who don't know anything about it, maybe you can give us a brief intro. What can they expect from this new show?
Okay, so the premise, we start off with a father and a son living alone together. Mother died a couple of years before, and they're kind of, the son's 15, rubbing along. There's obviously a grief and a sadness there, but they're kind of getting on with it. Plus, 15-year-old boys have stuff they're going through of their own, and he's at school. There's worries. It's a farm. It's hard work, and there's the worries that come with any small farm. Worries about boundaries and issues and encroachment. And into this mix, this hideous county lines business model comes and not seduces but traps the boy into it. And Nathan, my character, his father, naturally is defensive and kind of goes at it full steam ahead, and not with great consequences, really. And it just, oh boy, you've only seen the first one. It's tragic. I mean, it's a real, you just worry for this boy the whole time. You really do, because it's a really, really tangibly dangerous world. And it's dark, this drama. It is dark. But it's also, the land features heavily in it. It's beautifully photographed, and it's beautiful countryside. And that's a player, that's a character in the story, is the land. And its boundaries and this this threat of invasion, which is all topical, isn't it? Jesus.
Yeah, I think it's such a compelling premise, because there is this sense of kind of normality, of being in the countryside, something calm, something safe. And then this sort of gritty kind of undercurrent suddenly comes flowing through it. And as you say, so relevant, because it's a sort of relatively new phenomenon, that the county lines, drug trafficking. So when you first were sort of approached about the concept, read the script, what really spoke to you?
Well, I was part of the development of it, and Ed Whitmore, who wrote it, we've worked with. This would be like the fourth thing we've done with him. We just really dig him, and he introduced us to Mark Evans, who directed both the Manhunt series. And Mark is a Welsh speaker and knows this part of the world. And his granddad was a vet, a farm vet. And, he knows what these farmers are up against. And also, to him, it's the border region of Wales. So that's another boundary and another blurring and another, encroachment and what have you. And so it was an idea we had, because I have a farm, and maybe not every actor can drive a tractor and a digger or whatever. I can do that, and I can work with sheep and cattle. So I'm kind of cool with that. And that's what it came out of. And Ed is such a brilliant dramatist, and the two of them kind of wrote it together. But Ed is our chief dramatist, and you can take a bunch of information and you can lay it out in any number of ways, but he just pays things out in such, you go, what, and keeps you on the edge of your seat. You never get into the back of your seat, because the stakes are high, because this poor boy. And he's going through what 15-year-old boys go through, falling in love and what have you. But he falls in with the wrong crowd. And then the wrong crowd are wrong for their reasons. It's not just people coming up and being baddies. Everyone's where they are because of where they are, and how they got there. So I'm really proud of it. It's been a long time. We made it this time last year. And delivered it in March. But I think it's really relevant on so many levels, not just the county lines, but what they stand for.
And obviously the farming aspect obviously came to you very naturally, but understanding how this drug trafficking works. And, I think even the police are still sort of catching up with how these networks are formed and what it really means and how to kind of stop it. Did you have to kind of go down a bit of a rabbit hole with the research?
Yeah. Yeah, no, we did. Yeah. And it's as dark as you like. It's a well-polished business model, and it's constantly looking for new markets, and it sees its workforce as disposable. That's the scariest thing. And lives are cheap.
And in terms of your character of Nathan, I mean, he feels like maybe he is kind of from a slightly other world. You know, he sort of has this confidence. You know, he knows his job, he knows his place in the world. But then, of course, there are these elements of vulnerability that come in. You know, he is grieving the loss of his wife, kind of being faced by these new challenges. You know, sort of puts him a little bit out of sync of the way he normally is. So how did you kind of find the character, both in terms of, you know, the physicality and who he is, but also kind of his emotional arc?
You kind of have to go right and deliver yourself unto the series of tasks that you have that the script gives you in any day, and kind of go right, having sort of got a handle on who the fella is. You then just sort of go, okay, I'll expose him to this today and see what happens. And because Mark's such a brilliant and empowering director, and we had such a crazy good cast. But Mark Lewis Jones, who plays my brother, I mean, our scenes, we never get on. We are bickering, but I never had a brother. But if I did, I'd like one like Mark. But in the thing, we just bicker the whole time. There's all this long-term harbored resentments and stuff, and our dad wasn't particularly warm, and you know, and the fact that I brought him out of the farm, and there's resentments and this, that, and the, you know, whatever. But you know, those were the sort of tasks, and because then acting gets, I once compared it, but it's more with a comedy, but like to like a parlor game. But if you're all on an equal kind of level playing field, and you just get to go, right, let's do our stuff like that, and everyone's going in the same direction, it's really rewarding. It's when it gets good. It's when it's like that, and then you have to go again for a different shot, and again and again and again.
And of course, one of the pivotal relationships and dynamics is you with your son. What was it like working opposite Louis, playing that role? Did you have kind of rehearsal time to sort of build up, make that relationship feel very lived in? And what's it like?
Yeah, we did. And we did a lot of talking and a lot of stuff. You know, we saw a lot of people for that role, but Louis was like, he was just it when he came in and read. He was a joy to work with and a real discovery. And I never had a son either. I've got a daughter, but again, if I had a son, I'd love to have one like Louis. He's so charming and polite with everyone, and just quietly charismatic. But you know, we were both on a voyage together, you know, of discovery. And then you do things when you have a relationship, and you go, oh look, this feels good, like we're really connecting here. And then it's like, oh no, take that apart. It's not working that well. It's not meant to work that well.
And I guess he doesn't his character is not necessarily fitting maybe a stereotype about what kind of young man would be drawn into this, because he does have that sense of stability. But of course, his father is also a bit distracted with the farm. He's wanting to be loyal to, you know, a good friend. He's got a crush on his friend's sister. So you know, I like the fact that perhaps it's not just digging into a stereotype there. It's just something slightly different, but it's also exploring how, you know, anyone in some respects can be vulnerable to being co-opted into this kind of thing.
Yeah. It'll just come and grab you. I think there's a misconception that maybe I subscribe to, that this is young men kind of showing off by doing this and kind of getting a status thing out of it. That's not the case. It doesn't work like that. It comes for you, and it targets people in a certain position. And certainly, I'm not saying that Johnny is vulnerable, but this industry does target the vulnerable. You know, it gets worse. Oh no, he was such a joy, Louis. Such a joy to work with.
And in the fact that it does go to some dark places, was there a most challenging scene in the making of it, or on the flip side, did you have a favorite moment?
I mean, it's all nice. I like getting out. I don't like studios. I like to be out in the field with everything off the lorry. That's my favorite work experience. So we had a lot of that. We had a lovely, that horse, what was her name? Crystal. She was lovely. She was really sweet. She'd never done any filming before, and she was really patient and well behaved. And all the crew wanted a horse at the end of the day after she came.
And what do you hope ultimately people take away from watching this show? I mean, I think, you know, just on the entertainment level, as you said, you're really on the edge of your seat, wanting to know what happens next.
Yeah.
It is throwing a spotlight on some of these issues, whether it's about
it certainly is, yeah,
working in the countryside, you know, the sort of economic pressures of that, also about this drug trafficking. What can we do differently to stop it happening? So this, it's throwing a spotlight on some important issues too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we hope that we hope people enjoy, buy into it. But also the being on the edge of the seat doesn't stop at the end. It's on its knees begging for a second series.
And in terms of your career, I mean, I grew up on Men Behaving Badly,
Oh yeah.
but is that one of the things you look on back with the most fondness? Maybe you have your own favorites. It feels like maybe that kind of comedy, did come from another country these days. But how do you look back on all that time?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, terrific. I mean, we had really fun. God, it's all going today. We had really funny scripts to do, and again, a cast that really dug each other. And each week we do it. We show it to an audience. You get an audience to show off in front of, and then even better, the TV audience really liked it. It became very popular. So there's no better work experience than that, really. Neil and I just did a thing driving around France for UK TV, which was nice, really nice. Good to hang out with him again.
And I guess because you do seem to be able to move seamlessly between comedy and drama and doing documentary stuff. Do you have one that's your favorite, or is it almost part of the joy being able to do all of those things at the same time?
Well, it's jammy, isn't it? I mean, I'm really lucky. Yeah, touch wood. I've loved doing programs about islands. I've really loved that. I've been to some amazing places. I've got a series about the islands of the Atlantic that hasn't come out yet, which we've delivered, which starts in West Africa and then goes up to Greenland, which is just amazing, really interesting, really interesting. So yeah, they've been a highlight. It's all a highlight, Jesus. Look what I get paid to do. It's yeah.
Do you have any reflections on how the industry's changed, whether that's sort of TV and film in general, or particularly in the comedy world?
No, not really. I just sort of sit and watch. I can't influence anything. I just watch it wash over me. I've never had a plan. I've never had a career path or whatever. I've literally just bimbled into the next thing that comes along. And Schedule D is a great taskmaster. You have to keep working. And we've got too many horses. I can't afford to retire.
And what will be next, if not another series of Out There? Anything else in the pipeline?
Yes, I've got my book out for Christmas, Meetings with Remarkable Animals. And I did a film in the summer, but I'm not going to talk about that because they haven't paid me yet. And I'm doing a really exciting job. I can't tell you about it. It's so exciting. A big movie in the new year. But it's too exciting.
Too exciting. Well, I'm not excited. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me. I'll let you get back to decorating your tree.
Thanks very much. I'm glad you enjoyed episode 1. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it.
I can't wait to watch the rest, and for everyone else to see it too. Thanks, Martin. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you, Sarah, and you.